YouTube just bought me an all-expense paid trip to New York City for an event they're hosting. I don't even have to pay for food because it'll be catered. So why am I so stressed out? Because I live in California, and these recent Boeing headlines has me mega afraid to fly.
At the top of 2024, a Boeing plane emergency door just ripped right off in the middle of a flight. And would you believe it? I have to fly in that same Kerbal-engineered death trap for 12 hours to and from New York City.
And for the past 9 months or so, I've been screenshotting dozens of headlines involving things going wrong with the Boeing 737. And call me what you want, but this is enough for me to refuse to get on that flying macaroni craft. To be fair though, you might think that I'm just some irrational smooth brain.
Because just like that one friend that complains about his timeline only shows him thirst traps as a self-report.
Well, I too am self-reporting that my timeline only shows me Boeing headlines because I click on them a lot. And you see, this really has me confused. Are there really more flight accidents than usual happening right now? Or is recommendation just trying to keep me afraid to fly so that they can show me a few ads? But when I looked into it, all the stuff that I came across was confusing and didn't give me any more confidence. So if you can't trust expert opinions, who can you trust? I just downloaded 100 years of flight accidents data. Well, it's not actually on this old bulky hard drive. I just thought this would make for a cool shot.
This is what the data actually looks like. And to set the record straight, you can't really trust data, especially data this crude. So prepare yourself for a data sleuthing mess. Here is the data plotted, just simply number of accidents over time. And what you'll see pretty quick is that there is a huge peak here in the 40s. Why is that? Obviously because World War II was a huge thing that happened. So this peak is expected. And then following that, you know, it kind of normalizes. There's a little peak here in the 70s. That's the Vietnam War, of course. But after that, it seems like we've averaged about 250 accidents per year, all the way up until current day. And even looks like there's a little downtrend in the recent few years. I don't know, just looking at the data, I was expecting it to kind of do an uptrend towards the end, but it's actually doing a downtrend. So I guess flying is safe, case closed.
Not so fast, bucko. I have so many questions. For starters, don't you find it strange we have the same number of average accidents today than we did following World War II? Well, you see, the problem is, I can only look at data and ask questions. I need someone else to do the actual intellectual part of making sense of it. So I threw these questions at Brian McManus of the Real Engineering YouTube channel because he knows a lot about planes. But before we do, I just want to quickly get this out of the way. I know that some of you might be skeptical about all this data that I'll be showing you and you want to check it out for yourself. Now, I would make a pretty little website and put the data up on there, but I suck at making websites and they take me forever to make. So just setting the expectation now, that is not happening.
Sign up, use AI site template, add data to site, use free domain, profit.
That's it? 5 easy steps that only took me 30 minutes? Wait a second, is this video sponsored by Hostinger?
That's right. Regardless if you need to build a website, a private server, web, or WordPress hosting, I want you to build it on Hostinger. Their website builder doesn't require any code, so it's very easy to use. It has many customization options, e-commerce, and this one's for all my optimization nerds out there. Hostinger even has some new tools like AI-assisted SEO and an AI heat map to predict user behavior.
And realistically, how much do you think something like this would cost? $20 a month? $10 a month? No. The best part is
Hostinger is having a Black Friday sale until the 15th of December.
So that means that you can get 48 months of their business plan for just $2.95 a month. And that's before applying the Jabrils coupon code at checkout to get an additional 10% off.
What a deal!
I know! Use the link hostinger.com/Jabrils in the description. Don't forget to apply the coupon code for additional 10% off. Check out the Hostinger site that I built for this video. And now back to the conversation with Real Engineering.
So we had a brief chat, and to summarize, he basically just said only looking at flight accidents over time is missing a lot of the story. Aviation safety is often measured by looking at accidents per flight hours. So let's graph that.
But pause. I've got some bad news. I started to look into all this just a couple of days before my flight, and between scouring the internet for data, making Python scripts to visualize that data, and waiting for Brian to comment, I've officially ran out of time and my flight is in just a few hours. And because I still feel no different than when this video started, I might have switched my flight last minute to a red eye on an Airbus instead. Call me what you want, but what you won't be able to call me is the subject of a Boeing headline, alright? But I've never tried vlogging on this channel before, so let's try something new.
My lady dropped me off at the airport, and right before midnight, we were off for our 5.5-hour flight to New York City. Shout out to the Airbus 321 for putting my nerves at ease. I tried my best to sleep on the flight, but those chairs are just so uncomfortable. At around 8 something, we landed in New York City.
Yeah, a bid. What's up, man? You ready to party?
YouTube booked me a private driver. This is me, Max chillin'. Shout outs to Bid. Not gonna lie, as soon as I got to the hotel, I just crashed.
Thank you everybody for being here. I know how busy you all are, so I really do appreciate you all making the time.
I checked out the reception that YouTube was hosting later that day. This is the CEO of YouTube, by the way. Next day, I headed over to the event. It was pretty chill. They just announced a bunch of new features coming soon, and I just got to chatting with some friends, new and old. And honestly, that was basically it. It was a quick 2-night trip. Most of it, not gonna lie, I just tried catching up on my sleep. But before I left, it was beautiful out, so I went on a nice bike ride down the boardwalk, and then I went home. Here's some of the features that they announced that I'm excited about on screen. Yo, no fucking shot. The morning after I returned home, check out this breaking news.
Pressurization issue on a Delta Airlines flight caused nosebleeds and ear pain for several of its passengers. People aboard the plane said that they started to feel some sort of pain after departure.
Can you guess the plane? Go figure. Are you still calling me irrational for switching to Airbus?
So it turns out what Brian was suggesting is actually backed by the data. Because yes, while it does look like we've learned nothing about safety since the 1940s at first glance, when we add the flight hours over time, you'll see that they increase decade after decade, suggesting that despite flying more and more, the chance of a flight accident is shrinking. In fact, here's the accident rate per 100,000 flight hours, which just basically shows that you can expect to get in one aviation accident per 200,000 flight hours. But most of us aren't even going to see 2,000 flight hours in our lifetime, which is honestly really comforting. It really puts into perspective when they said that flight is the safest mode of transportation. You know, maybe I am being a little irrational.
A brand new warning about Boeing planes. The NTSB just issued a quote urgent safety recommendation for some Boeing 737 jets, warning that critical flight controls could jam. Airline pilots reported their rudder pedals were stuck in the neutral position during their landing in New Jersey.
Oh. Right. We aren't just talking about flying in general, are we? We're talking about the Macaroni Craft Max. So let's try and scope this data to see if the 737 tells a different story. Alright, so just straight up, this is what I was able to find. When you filter the data to only highlight 737 accidents, it does appear to go up over time. But the issue is when you add total flight hours over time, it does seem to match that trend pretty well. The more hours that we fly, the more accidents we will have. It's a little sus here in the mid 2010s, but overall it maps on pretty well. Furthermore, adding the Airbus equivalent, the A320, that also appears to follow the same trend as well. Yes, it is far less accidents than the Boeing 737, but let's be real here. We're talking about 30 accidents a year at peak, with less than one of those a year, but not zero, that's maths for you, resulting in a non-operable plane. For context, there's about 5,000 737 flights a day. Based on the data, the safety is just unmatched.
I want to ask you a question. Are you afraid of being struck by lightning? I'm just going to be honest, I'm not. It's not something I ever think about. But believe it or not, there are about 20 people a year that are finished off by lightning strikes. And do you know how many people were finished off from flying in 2023? Just one. And it was a pilot who suffered some medical issue, not even aviation related. Sure, the data was a little messy, but based on everything that I found today, flying appears to be one of the, if not the safest thing that you could possibly do. And I am so relieved because I can finally go back to training my algorithms to show me thirst.